Hey, how you doing? Good afternoon. Welcome to another time here. Welcome to another time here at the book club. We get to do this every Sunday, 2 p.m. every Sunday, West African time. We get to do this. And we've been reading our book, Business is Personal, right? By Bethenny Frankel. We're presently on chapter 6 of this. We started chapter 6 last week. We're not able to go far in chapter 6. We had went some bit. So we're gonna go ahead and finish what we had, so we're gonna do one part here, but we're not gonna be able to finish chapter 6 today. We'll finish chapter 6 tomorrow. We'll go as far as we can go today, and we'll kill it when next we come back next week Sunday. So that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna go as far as we can go in chapter 6 and close it out next week Sunday. What we're discussing, pretty much the title of the chapter is know when to hold them and know when to fold them. It's pretty much knowing when to pivot, knowing when to change. That's all it's talking about. And in introducing this, shared last week, we spoke about baby steps, advanced steps, right? And we kind of looked at it vis-a-vis. We looked at the book by Jim Collins and James Porras, right? The Good to Great, Built to Last, and we talked about two things. They talked about having evolutionary changes, pretty much the baby steps, and also they spoke about making having a big, hurry, audacious goals, right? So those ones are like the big steps, right? So both of them are important, right? And they have their place in our lives and also in our organizations, right? To be able to make them go from a good to great and to be built to last, right? I mean, those two books and those two titles really carry weight in themselves, right? In our lives, we're supposed to grow our lives or our business to from being good to being great, leaving a legacy, right? In that which we're doing. Same thing applies to our life, right? We'll build them to being great and we'll build them to last. It's not a matter of building them to be great and be great for 1 day, 2 days, 1 month, 1 year, but that they can go the distance, right? So those are all the different things we're sharing as we'll learn from Jim Collins, James Porras, and pretty much taking everything coming from Bethenny Frankel's book. So you see us mentioning different things from different places, but it's all in that process, right? I mean, the whole book, like we said, is about succeeding without losing yourself. And we'll see also Ariana Hopton also kind of talks in that wise. So we're trying to decide on the next book we're going to do on the book club. But Ariana's book, Thrive, pretty much stays even in that line, whereby you're not lost in your success. That's the whole thing about our book here, Thrive. Well, it's probably going to be our next book, but then I saw another book this week. I just placed an order on. I probably should get it this week or next week. It's the book, The Good Life. We have some Harvard professors studying about happiness, right? What makes for happiness, right? So between The Good Life, which I placed an order on, and I placed another book, which book was that? I can't remember now, but between The Good Life, Thrive, and all these other books that come along, we'll see the one that fits the billing. That will be the next book after we're done here with Bethenny Frankel's book. We're all just about, making it in life, right? We're trying to make our lives great, right? And great to last, right? Built great to last, right? Having the best that God has offered for us in this life. That's all the reason we're doing this, right? We're here just to do life together and get better in the process of life. That's all we're doing. All right, I'm going to go ahead and bring up a slide here. Enough of my introduction, and we're going to go into the meat of this and just kill it. All right, I believe you all can see my slide here. So, like I said, that's the title of the book, and that's pretty much a summary of the book, is the truth about what it takes to be successful while staying true to yourself, not losing yourself in the process of being successful, right? So that's just a book or in the slide form. This is my copy of it. And that's the front, and that's the back of the book, right? So a quick run through what we did last week. We pretty much introduced the chapter last week, and we spoke about the need, to know when, to make changes, right? And coming from chapter 5, when we said we needed to, take 5 steps ahead, we needed to be able to look at the whole picture. We needed to be strategic, in our thinking, as we see, as the things we'll see when we're strategic, we're seeing the whole picture, will tell us what to do, the kind of changes, this kind of adaptation we need to take, to be able to be ready for the future that we're going into, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with change. Change is great, but change, the pain of change is when you are not ready for it. When it hits you suddenly, that's when the pain of change might be negative for you. But if you can prepare yourself for the change you're expecting, then you're ahead of the ball game, right? Same thing happens, it doesn't matter what the feature is, for as long as you're ready for it, then it doesn't give you a shock effect, right? Shock effect is what kills people, right? It's what destabilizes us, right? I mean, someone is coming behind me. If I'm expecting the person, I will not be shocked when the person comes behind me. But if I'm not expecting the person and some person just suddenly appears, right? There's a reflex action that would make me, just be shocked by that occasion. It's not whether the person can kill me, not kill me, beat me, not beat me, but the way we're created, we're created to respond, almost with an adrenaline flowing straight into our bloodstream when some things hit us suddenly, right? Over last week, I was just sharing, I think last week or the week before, I was just sharing on the need for us to prepare our mind, build our mind for the future we're expecting. Because when some things hit us that we're not expecting, that's what leads to depression, that's what leads to anxiety, issues, mental illness, because things hit us suddenly, destabilizes us, and we're not able to get a hold of ourselves, so, but it helps us if we can get prepared for it. There are people, death is an inevitable occurrence. People are going to die, right? We're praying that they're going to live longer, not die before their time, but we need to be ready not to be shocked by death, right? I know that is a strange saying. We need to be ready not to be shocked by death, because death is a given. We're all going to die. Nobody's going to live here alive. We're all going to die someday, sometime, somewhere, right? So I need to prepare my mind for that eventuality, whether eventuality of my own death or the death of the people close to me, right? There's so much you can control about it, right? I'm a Christian. I'm going to pray. I'm going to believe God that they're going to live long. But there's only so much I can control around that, right? When their time comes, they're going to go, right? That should not stop my own life from going on, right? Not because I don't love them or I love them any less, right? But it is an eventuality of life, right? There's no use struggling with something that's been ordained, all right? Except if I don't have time to do all the things, right? Because if it's something that's been ordained, right, it's going to happen. I need to be ready in my mind to deal with it, so that it doesn't destabilize me, so that my world does not fall apart because of something that was ordained to happens, right? We'll talk more about that as we go along. Anyway, but the key thing is, staying 5 steps ahead. You see the things you need to adjust and prepare for, right? Keyword in this slide is poverty requires timing is everything when it comes to poverty, right? Being able, like I said, being able to catch it on time, and be prepared for it before it occurs, taking away the shock effect, that helps a lot. It helps you win in the game when you come prepared, right? We also spoke about the examples of pivoting, and we brought out some examples from my own business, so talking about places where changes take place and all of that. And we closed last week just talking about the need to have the right people in your boss, right? Everything takes people, right? Let's start from our own individual lives. There's so much I need to do. I cannot do it alone, right? It takes a team to run my life for me, right? So I have a friend when I need to go to the farm. I'm not used to driving on Nigerian roads because I'm not sure. I'm a speed driver, right? So I know myself, and I don't want to expose myself to the roads of Nigeria that I'm not used to, because I'm just going to hit a bump or pothole or something, So when I need to go to the farm, I have a dear friend who was able to help me in that place of my weakness, right? I have a farm manager. I can't be on my farm every time. I have a full-time job, right? I have farm workers that work for me. I met a friend last month, she's way ahead in the farming business. She's able to help me get the farm workers and several other things she's helping me with, right? Only 2 days ago, while trying to buy fuel, I met someone who is open to take some of my products, right, into the supermarket, chain of supermarket, right? You need people, right? So those are all people outside, inside, you need people to run your life, right? To do things you cannot do, because we all have strengths and weaknesses, right? There's no use banging my head. Peter Drucker tells us that you don't build excellence on your weaknesses, you build excellence on your strengths, right? The easiest thing to do with your weaknesses is to delegate them. Get people who your weakness is their own strength, right? And they can take care of that for you. There's no use you hitting your head over your weaknesses, right? Rather spend your time on your strengths. Use your strength. That's the way you can build excellence. That's the way you can build momentum, right? It's on your strength. You don't build momentum on your weaknesses, right? You delegate it to those that can do that for you, while you build strength. You build your momentum. You build for the future your strength, right? So you need a team. So with that, you need the right people on the bus, to help you. When it comes to employment, you gotta employ the people you want. The canary can work for me because we have standards, we have values, right, that we run our business on, and I run my life on. So not everybody can work for me, right? So when we go hiring people, we have that at the back of our mind. So that's where we ended last week. So we're going to take this from this, continue where we ended last week, and we'll talk about you need to have your discipline taught, right? Your mind needs to be disciplined, if you want to make changes correctly, because you need your mind, right, to be able to harness the environment and know the opportunities to seek, the right decisions, listening to your gut, listening to your intuition, standing against opposition, making discussions, relating with other people. Your mind, needs to be disciplined enough to be able to make sure that you have a positive result from your engagements, right? So, and you also need that of the people that work for you, right? So Bethenny in her book says, if you take the emotion out of your thinking, look around you and ask questions, read the news, put the pieces together, you will develop a good instinct for making decision based on the truth of the situation. You need to take this, what she's trying to say is take the sentiments away from your decision. If you're going to move forward, then you have to be brutally honest with yourself, right? I was just joking with someone on Facebook this morning, we're talking about Casemiro, and I was calling him a tall, that's a handsome gentleman, right? So I made mention of someone else who was not that handsome, you don't have to run away from the truth, because the truth is the truth, right? You can never win against the truth. You can never win against the laws of nature. You can never win against the principles of life, right? You're either going to make them your friends or they'll become your enemies, and you can never win against them, right? So if you want to win, you want them to be on your side. You want to use them, because they're always true, right? So you take away these emotions, take away the sentiments. It is what it is. Line up with the truth, or line up with the principles of life, line up with the laws of nature, and they will carry you, right? So there's no sentiment in business. I was in another committee discussing yesterday, and they were talking about giving some freebies to some people. And I said, hey, man, this is business, right? When you cross that border between the US and Mexico, right? The difference between the places on both sides of that border, right, is the ability to use your mind and throw away sentiments, right? It's light, and it's day and night as you cross that border, right? The US is day, Mexico is night, right? You're back in Africa once you cross that border, and they're just so close to one another. All it takes is someone using their mind and throwing away sentiment, right? And doing the right things, right? And you can go from whatever you are, go from a bad situation to a good situation to a great situation, and you can build it to last. It doesn't have to be a fluke. You can build it to last, right? But you have to take away the sentiments. You have to be sincere to yourself, first of all, and then to others, right? Be sincere to yourself, and take notice of the brutal facts of life, the truth of life, right? If you deceive yourself, then you're building on a wrong foundation, right? And the storms of life will come to test your foundation, right? And if your foundation are not built on things that are solid on the rock, your whole house, your whole company will be blown away, right? So Bethenny further says in her book, she says, bottom line, think about reality, not just the daydream, right? Think about what is, right? It's good to have a daydream. You can have your fantasies, what you want things to be. There's nothing wrong with that, right? That is the future. But you cannot get to the future without respecting the present. You cannot start building the first story building without putting the foundation. You cannot start putting a ground floor without having a foundation, right? You have to make the foundation secure for the kind of building you're trying to put on it, right? So you have to accept the reality. You have to accept where you are today, right? Where you are today is your foundation, right? You have to build from there. You cannot put them up, deceive yourself, lie to yourself about where you are, because that forms a foundation of what you want to build, right? So as Bethenny would say here, think about reality, right? Because reality is your foundation, right? Not just the daydream, which is your first floor, second floor, your skyscraper. You have to get the foundation right before you can put the skyscraper on it. But stay in touch with your gut, right? Stay in touch with your gut. Even though you're recognizing reality, know that is not your limit, right? You can get to your daydream. It just takes work. It takes discipline. You can get to your daydream, but you have to do the work that is required, right? Believe in your God, believe in your tuition, right? Believe in yourself, right? Are conditions right in the market for the idea? So you have to ask yourself the thing you want to do. How does it relate with the market itself? Like my wife would always say concerning our farm, that whatever we plant, we need to have a market for it, right? Because it's no use just planting and you can't market it, right? We're not in the farming business for the sake of farming. We're in it to be able to sell to the market in a way that is profitable, right? So you have to ask yourself, I want to plant so and so. Do I have a market for it? Is there a market for it? And that market that is for it, is there money in it, right? So what problem is it you're solving? And is there a great need for that problem to be solved, right? It's one thing to solve a problem, but is it economical solving that problem, right? For us, last year, most of the things we sold, right? We sold at the market, at the village market, we made nothing. We made a loss compared to what we put in. But that was a learning process. That was a market we could easily go to, right? We're planning this year to go past that, right? We've learned how to plant. We've learned how to harvest. Now we need to learn how to market, right? We didn't make money last year. We're planning to cancel all of those errors, right? And take it to a market that is worthy of the labor that we put in, right? So it's not just about planting, it's not about solving a problem. It's about making that solution economical, right? You're looking for the place where where it makes all the trouble you're going through worthy of it, right? So remember too that the best ideas are often the simplest, right? So so she's saying here that there's a need to remember that even the best ideas are often the simplest. It doesn't have to be complex, for it to be right. Right? It doesn't have to be complex for it to be right. Just because an idea is not complex doesn't mean that it's not the right answer, right? So don't be taken away aback because something is simple and think that it won't work. No, it's complex doesn't mean that it won't work, right? So it's about the solution. It's not about, even the best, like she said, best solution is often the simplest because, what's his name now? Albert Einstein would say, if you're not able to explain something to a little child, then you don't know it, right? But if you're able to break it down to the simplest fragment of it, you're able to explain it to that child because you have understood it yourself. And it takes understanding to apply, to implement, right? So I love simplicity. I break down things so as the smallest bit possible, because that's who I am. I am a teacher. So I have to be able to understand things at the first principles, because then it's easy for me to communicate it to someone else. If I don't understand it, then I can teach someone else. I'm a teacher, right? I'm a trainer, right? I'm a coach. So I need to understand things at their minutest fundamental level. Then it's easy for me to play around in explaining it. Some people call me a wordsmith, right? That I'm able to use words in different ways. I'm only able to do that because I have an understanding of what I'm trying to say, right? When you have an understanding of what you're trying to say, then you're in control, right? You can turn it in several ways to communicate the same thing, right? It's the same. It's like we say, when amateurs are bound by rules, but when you understand the rules, then you can play around with the rules, because the rules are pretty much written in blood to avoid you having to repeat the same incidents that others have gone through. But when you have an understanding of those incidents, right, then you're not necessarily bound by someone else's conclusion, right? Because then you're going back to the first principles and you're doing the same thing they are trying to do, which is avoid a shipwreck, right? That takes a bit of mastery as you go along, right? So let's go at here. All right, so still continue talking about discipline thoughts, right? So in Bethenny says that you have to forget about your ego, right? When you answer questions like this, right? So when you're talking about making changes, you have to throw your ego away. That's why people don't make it in business, right? Because they're all about their ego. What will people say? How will people see me? And all of that stuff. For some people, they're probably ashamed to call themselves a farmer. think people will look down on them, and that is ignorance, right? I lived in California, I lived in Texas, Houston, and those farmers are rich. And go to California, in the place I lived, you see a whole lot more Lexus around, right? There's morning farming, there's morning farming. especially when you have the finance to sponsor it. There is money in farming, a whole lot of money in farming. Anything that has to do with food sells. I remember when Mega Chicken, built their first outlet here in Lekki. The thought was, wow, they're building such a big place where they make money. They have since built a whole lot more like that because they made a lot of money from their first one. Right, the first one here, in Kota here, they made so much money, they built one in Ikeja. So much money, they built one by Ranchisco, and probably a whole lot more, right? You can't get it wrong when it comes to food. That's a good business. You just have to ensure the quality, and you there's a whole lot of money in food, People might not do any other thing, but they gotta eat. So that is an opportunity out there that you can tap into, So Bethenny goes on and says, a pivot based on ego, a change based on ego or your emotional attachment is a bad one, right? If you're making a change based on your sentiments, that means you're not looking at the brutal facts around things. You're probably going to hit the wall, right? So you need to be, you need to be objective, right? When you're making changes, whether it be your big, airy, audacious goals, or whether it be your evolutionary changes, whether it be your giant steps or your baby steps, you gotta throw the ego out through the window. You gotta respect the brutal facts on ground, right? And walk with them, right? So it's all about being objective in your thinking, right? So when faced with any decision about change, you first have to think about the results you want, Like I say, you always start with the end in mind, right? That's Stephen Covey would tell us that. That's one of the 7 habits of highly effective people. You start with the end in mind. You start with the end in mind. I believe that's the second habit. First habit is being proactive. Second habit is starting with the end in mind. You have to conceptualize what is it that you're trying to achieve, right? You have to then achieve that in your mind before you go to start with the first things, breaking the ground, right? Everything is created twice, right? So when you're looking at the problem to be solved, you have to solve it first in your mind, see that solution in your mind before you begin to execute it, right? So Bethenny says, when faced with any decision about change, you first have to think about the results you want. And that can be your business, your relationship, or your personal life. Think about the results you want, right? That's important if you're going to have the right change intervention, right? And she goes on and still talking about discipline thought. She says all negatives are opportunities. Anything where there's a problem, there's an opportunity. That's all we got to tell people that, and that goes back to Napoleon Hill. Napoleon Hill tells us that in heavy adversity, right? In heavy adversity, there is an equal or greater opportunity. In every storm, there is a treasure that is equal to that storm or greater than that storm. In every event of life that is not pleasurable or pleasant, there is always a treasure, a seed of greatness that is either equal to or greater than the storm itself. And I've been doing a study through the book of Daniel in my weekday prayer meeting. And that's one we just closed out chapter 6 here on Friday. And that's one thing we've seen, as you look through Daniel chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 5, chapter 6, you see in every of those chapters, there is a storm that comes into their lives, between Daniel and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, right? In verse Daniel chapter 1, I believe about verse 10 or thereabout, God stated that he has given to Daniel, Shadrach and Abednego, he has given them, right, favor and goodwill. God gave them favor and goodwill, favor and goodwill, favor and goodwill, right? To the normal person will think, oh, God has given them favor and goodwill, so you just be pouring pressure into their hands. That's what we'll think. But as we do the study through, we saw that God is giving it to them, but the first thing they see is opposition. They see opposition. They were in a place where they could not eat the food that they were being given, right? But God had given them favor and goodwill. But it was opposition that the first thing we see. And it is the way they were able to overcome that difficulty that showed forth the favor and goodwill that God had already given to them. And we'll see that repeating itself in 2, 3, 4, 5, and we just close 6, where it talks about that Daniel was able to reign, prosper in the kingdom, under the kingdom of Nebuchadnezzar, Belshazzar, Darius, and Cyrus, right? Daniel prospered. So it wasn't as if it was a fluke. He tested it and he walked under Nebuchadnezzar. He tested it and he walked under Belshazzar. He tested it and he walked under Darius. He tested it and he walked under Cyrus, right? So it is what we call proven, tested and tried, proven, right? It can work under any circumstance, any weather, right? It's a proven, repeatable steps to prosperity that we see in the Daniel story, right? So, and that is because in every adversity, right, and which is what we see from the life of Daniel, in every adversity, there's an equal or greater seed of greatness in that adversity. So don't be carried away by the adversity itself. There is something. There's a promotion that is in it for you. There are opportunities in it for you. If you look too much into the negative, you'll miss a positive. In every negative of life, there are positives. So don't be carried away by the negatives that you miss the positive. Be on the lookout for the positives, even though a negative has hit you. Because in every negative of life, there are positives that are equal to or greater than a negative. Right? All right, we'll go on. And so, and she gives an example of Cathy Ireland, in the book, all right, and she was able to use seeming, she was undermined, right, and she was able to use that being undermined as a secret power, right. I just shared with someone over the week talking about being undermined, right, and I was said that is your superpower. If people undermine you, people look down on you, right? That means that you can hit them suddenly before they know, because they undermine you. That means they're not fighting with you directly, right? That means it gives you opportunity, right? You are outside their radar to grow. So being undermined is your secret superpower, because then you can grow without direct opposition, right? So don't, because you're undermined, is not a reason to give up. It's a reason to step up. Right? Someone is undermining you is a reason to step up, because it becomes your secret superpower. It means they are not seeing you as competition. They are not seeing you as opposition. They are focused somewhere else. That gives you time to grow. And we saw that in the life of, what's her name again? Lima Ken. Lima, we did a study of a book, as a second book, Believe It, and she grew her company because people undermined her. People thought that she couldn't go that far, right? Whereas she was then able to break into new grounds, because of that. So, and that's what Cathy Ireland is telling us here. There is power in being undermined. You can use it to your advantage, right? People looking down on you, it tells you can use it. You can grow with it, All right. We're looking at when poverty might be the answer, right? When changes will be the answer. In a real sense, poverty is always, there's going to be some kind of poverty we need to make, right? Because the environment we live in, we work in, is changing. But it's about using the right poverty for the right change. You don't want to take giant steps when baby steps are required. You don't want to take baby steps when giant steps are required. Now, being able to match the right change, the right adjustment change to the right environment is critical. It's a science, it's an art, right? And that's what differentiates the great from the ordinary. That's what differentiates boys men from boys, by being able to know how to stay ahead of the ball game, right, efficiently and profitably, right? You don't want to spend so much money for when only so so little is required, right? Well, let's look at some of the examples here on the times, might need to make changes, when they become effective. One of that we looked at is when the company is always playing catch up, right? If you're in an industry and things are always ahead of you, you're always trying to struggle, you're always in a hurry, right? If you're always in a hurry, that's a problem. Because hurry is not of God. Hurry is not positive, right? If you're always in a hurry, that's a problem. I'll share my personal life with you. For me, I'm an introvert, right? I know people don't believe that because I look like an extrovert, but if you understand the difference between an introvert and an extrovert, it has nothing to do with the way we talk necessarily. It has to do with where our energy comes from. Because I'm not just an introvert, I'm a Sigma personality, right? A Sigma personality compared to an Alpha personality. Both personalities are almost the same. The difference between an Alpha and a Sigma is that an Alpha is an extrovert. A Sigma is an introvert, but every other thing, they are the same. So you see, an Alpha personality is typically an extrovert. So when a seeming Alpha is an introvert, he is a Sigma personality, right? So that means for someone like me, data is important. I'm data driven, right? Like almost every introvert, because we're deep thinkers, right? It means that I can get confused when you are not giving me the right data at the right time in the right way. I can get confused if you're not organized. When things are not organized, I don't function well in that place. So as I get more in tune with who I am, right, I know that I have to always plan ahead. So you see, when I do this program, all the music that I need to plan, that I play as I get ready for this program, I already have them up to April. I already have all of the music up to about May, actually. Here I've already have the music I'm going to play up to May, right? And I keep working, I'm ahead up to May. So I don't come on the Sunday that I need to do this and I start thinking, oh, which one to play? No. Already planned till May, right? This that we're sharing right now, already closed this out. And I see it, I didn't change the date last Sunday. I didn't really work on it until today again, just to do some closing out. You see, because Ori doesn't work for me. Ori is not of God by the side, but Ori is also much more not for an introvert. It destabilizes us. So you see, all that I'm sharing with you right now, already finished it last Sunday, right? I'm going to go for a program. Once I'm done, I have a meeting, but maybe before the end of today, I would have had all that we need to do next Sunday done today, tomorrow, but surely long before Sunday. That gives me time to then meditate over it and receive other inputs in my intuition, right, about how to make this, a blessing, right, more whole for the people that are listening to me, right? Because I don't want to come here and just be reading a book. I want to come here and share my life. I want it to be practical. I want to share with you things you can apply that will make your life better, right? That's the only reason being here. I'm not here just to be reading a book. The book is our base. But from a book, then we share things that we can apply to make our lives better. Like I said again, it's from wherever you are to becoming good, and from good to becoming great, and building that greatness to last. It's all about being happy with your life. That's what we're doing, right? So that's my example, right? I know who I am, so I cover the lapses, right? So I'm not always catching up, because if I say I'm always catching up, means something is wrong. It means I'm not planning. I'm not understanding who I am. I'm not understanding the task before me, right? I can tell you, my wife probably gets amazed about my life because I do so much, but she doesn't really see me doing so much, right? It comes from that place of always being prepared. The power of my life is the power of preparation. I don't just rush into things. Most things I'm already prepared for long before I have to do it, right? I don't just rush into things. I don't do things in a hurry. Hurry is not of God. Hurry is a demon. I don't do things in a hurry. Anyone that's trying to hurry me up, I see as Satan. So I push the person away, as far away from me as I can, right? Maybe some people are getting that message right now. You cannot hurry me to do anything. I see you as Satan when you are trying to hurry me. And I'm going to just say, like Jesus said to you, get behind me, Satan. Right? Get behind me, hurry. That's no place for me. Right. So sometimes when you see yourself that you haven't played catch up, it means something's wrong. You need to get things, you need to make the right changes to be ahead of the ball game. Why? When there's too much competition in a place, which is one of the things that happened for us last year, right? We'll take produce to the village market, but the prices are falling. Why? Because everybody's doing the same thing and bringing the same thing to the same market. So we're not able to get the value we need for the product we're taking to the market. Right. It means we need to change. We need to look for other markets, way to go to other markets or change product, begin to do products that others cannot do, right? So that we can win the game of demand and supply, right? You come in as hit a plateau, right? When there's no energy in the company or what you're doing, it's time to make some change, right? Because you need the energy, right? The right energy in your company, yourself, to produce the right results, right? And when one thing gets most traction, all right? So you have a lot of things and only one thing is moving. You need to make changes, otherwise you close the other things or you make some changes to bring about traction in those other things, right? And like the one that's making traction can become a product, you can upgrade it, but you need to harness the situation that you have also. There's limited response from the marketplace, right? There's no response from the marketplace. Either you're going to have to change market or you change product, whatever it is. You don't want to work for the sake of working. You want to get the benefit of what you're doing, right? And if your perspective has changed also, maybe you sell the business and go into the other things you need to do, right? There's no use dragging your life and being in something that you're not supposed to be in, right? So those are different reasons why people get to make changes, and how to make effective changes, need to do it as soon as you can. I would say timing is everything. If you need to make a change, don't drag your feet. Just do it, right? I don't drag my feet. If I need to do something, I do it. I do it. I do it. I don't stay up and do next week. That's not me. That's not my life. I've gone beyond that. Maybe I used to be that. I write down every day what I need to do because I recognize that I work best when I noted down the things I need to do and I strike them off, right? When I get too busy, I put it in my head, but that's not my efficient position. My most efficient position is when I write it down. Today, these are the things I need to do, and I hit them one after the other, right? I'm able to get that done, right? I'm most effective in that fashion. So I pretty much drift towards that, but I don't drag things. I get it done. I have something to do. I get it done, right? So I do it as soon as possible. And Jim C. Collins tells us here, he says, the only truly reliable source of stability is a strong inner core and willingness to change and adapt everything except the core, right? So you need to build your core as a person. You need to build your core as an organization and know the things that are for you and the things that are not for you. A lot of times when people drag in making decisions is because they are not clear on their priorities. They don't know what their values are. They don't know what their beliefs are. They don't know the things they stand for and the things they don't stand for. You're gonna have problems, right? You have to be clear about that. You have to be clear about the things that are for us, the things that are not for us, and just things that are not for us, things that are for us. You know, you have to clear. You know, if you don't have a congruency on your inside, you're gonna have problems. Incongruency is an enemy. And when there's an enemy within, the enemy without can conquer you. When you have congruency within, then the enemy outside of you cannot conquer you. You need to strive to have congruency within you. You need to know who you are. You need to know what you are about, right? So, knowing what you're about means that you know what you are not about. Knowing who you are means you know who you are not, and that will help you, right? So pick new goals that align with your vision. If you need to pick new goals, everything needs to have alignment with your vision, and build on and from where you are, right? So those are evolutionary changes. It could also be big area audacious changes. Like we said, you can only build from where you are right now. Your present reality is your foundation. You cannot throw that away, right? Every other thing has to be built on that, right? And lastly, you need to listen to the market, right? You know, you have to believe reality. Listen to the market. You know, the market is what it is, not necessarily what you want it to be, right? You have first of all respect what it is, then you can make it what you want it to be. You know, you have put the chicken before the egg. You have put the horse before the cart, right? You listen to the market, respect the market, then use it, change it if you need to. But you have to start from what it is to get you what you want it to be. Right. And always leave room for growth. Right. Don't get to the place where there's no more room for growth, because if you don't have no more room for growth, then you have no more energy, you know, to push you, to drive you. You want to always have energy, because energy it wants to work. And if there's no room to go, no place to go with your energy, you're going to burn out. You're going to be in a rut, right? Your energy will be useless, right? So that you have to always have a place called there that you are pushing towards, that your energy is carrying you towards, right? So that's important. All right, that's all I have. None of my people made it here today, so there's no question to work on. Like I always say, feel free if there's anything I've shared with you that you have questions on, something you want me to answer, or something you don't understand, let me know. Let me know. I'm going to post this out on Facebook. Just go straight to Facebook here. Well, go straight to YouTube with a link to Facebook. You know, wherever you catch it, and you have questions to me, feel free. We're going to reproduce this into what we call the School of Life. That then goes a lot of places, including LinkedIn. Right? If that's where it catches you, you have questions for me, feel free. All right. Other than that, I'm going to release you and let you go. God bless you. Have a great week ahead. Thanks for spending this time with me. Bye-bye.